Language is a baseline that maintains human perceptual orientation along explicative systems vetted through comprehension and continuity. Notice everything, everywhere you know, and see has a name. Many of us are totally immersed within a panoramic comprehensive scenery. We go to bed, sleep, and wake up in it. Hover for a moment and watch us operate our individuality inside the fishbowl of contextual drama plaguing every one of us. And you will notice some oddities that do not quite match up. Let's take a look. Webster Dictionary defines context as the parts that can throw light on meaning, environment, setting. It adds that something contextualized means placed in an appropriate setting so that it may be properly considered. To understand, it must first be situated in a context, says Cambridge Dictionary. Context exists everywhere we look. It's the cohesive imprint applied to a scene tuned to coherence. Any scene that makes sense implies a contextual background applied as a critical role to any assemblages perceived comprehensively under cognition or recognition. When context populates a scene, it adds associative background, fillers, pertinent to a comprehensive outlook which arranges to the smallest detail a sane and unquestionable reality to vetted participants. Hence, to operate, humans need context as it prioritizes human participation by limiting exposures to what can be understood, cloaking the limitless potential impossible to define by the limitations of the language made available for its distinctions. Language voices the situational cognizance emanating from our individuality. Perception here is the described recognition of the world around us. What you see is an acceptable descriptive version of reality perceived by a brain trained and conditioned to perceive the world in the manner perceived. Participation requires schooling and extensive socialization. Such training creates a level of expertise to individuality now called adulthood, capable of maintaining and abiding a level of conformity to contextual norms. We are all functional. We go on green and stop at red. Humans, as functional participants, require assimilation within a common reality. Freedom of choice requires similar, dissimilar thinking along national, religious, political, or other divisive yet contextually relevant lines. Such choices create endless adversaries competing for supremacy of the ideation they represent. History is the narrative to endless contextual battlegrounds. Humans die fighting religion, politics, and national boundaries by the millions as they are brought up and educated into contextual subservience. When you consider the 10,000-plus battles fought through history, you may consider these as contextual battles by humans at the service of the context they are willing to die for, as humans having forgotten who they really are, now dying as contextual servants. But if language mimics reality as a descriptive coherent, its inability to explain outside coherence remains hidden. Humans hooked on descriptive content ignore the totality of experience that guides them outside of it. Language also employs distinctive circular outcomes in its association with context and coherence. Understanding, explanations, thinking are tools of context, and we employ those tools in an anthropomorphic embrace so that we may function as participants. Language aspires to convey the entire dimension between humans and the context of their world, yet it is failing in surprising and uncommon ways. In this video, you'll be acquainted with various traps that seem innocuous enough, yet deadly results emanate from everyone's participation in ways you could but are unwilling, at best, to anticipate or imagine. But then, what would you say to the understanding you practice if its entanglement turns humans into contextual tenants, or worse, contextual agents? Would you be capable of questioning the tutelage and constraints clouded by an anthropomorphic compact whose perceptual dominance coerces linguistic and contextual interpretation it favors? Many people only focus blame on individuals or organizations as manipulators. These people don't get how dimensional perspectives trap everyone equally, all participants. We are made to trust language implicitly, and that trust misleads us into thinking that language reflects endless possibilities. Yet such reflection explains a finite horizon, forcing people into an artificial contextual immersion created by words. Words formulate a separate reality, yet a reality outside description, not accountable to a narrative, pervades the human condition. It's what is behind words that give the intelligence to participate. Through words, the reality we create. Language manipulates us. How? It is unable to deliver nor recount the full spectrum of unspoken resources available to humans within an existential moment. And language hides its shortcomings by forcing an immediate understanding of experience rather than having an experience without understanding. Adult humans, enrolled into the world as participants, are trained to understand but not experience the subjective, wider latitudes and depth of their potential to oncoming experiences. In short, many adults are loose in a world of description, without an inner compass from which to guide them in ways that cannot be described here. And while religions may provide a compass, many are highly restrictive, allowing only certain types of experiences that fit religious dogma. Experiences beyond understanding as a platform to maturity and a critical type of learning are particularly absent. These are outside the narrative and exploits of human social expressions. For instance, anything said is often automatically inserted into a dogmatic articulation. When you speak, are you not a critic? Is this a favorable or unfavorable impression? Are you right or wrong? Good, bad, or evil? For instance, equality and inequality are conceptual rivals applied to lyrical contexts, exhorting emotive values. Yet one would not exist without the other. It's a display that focuses on explaining differences, and in so doing maintains them. Differential contexts have duplicitous roles. One could say the preeminence of language in a reality of distinctions is maintained through the coherence of thinking, understanding, and explaining. Equality is woven within the same cloth as inequality, and at this stage they substantiate and depend on each other and move in a linear dynamic progression from one side of the pendulum to the other. Look, the right and the left in America are contextually dependent on each other. Opposites maintain their relevance through their practices to each other. Contextual tenants harangue other tenants furiously as a display of commitment to their cause. And worldwide, identical battles are being waged within all geographical areas. In Belgium, the Walloons face off against Flemish speakers. In Ireland, Catholics versus Protestants, Hindus versus Muslims in India, Buddhism versus Islam in Thailand, in Myanmar and Kashmir, Republicans versus Democrats in America, and on and on. This information should upset you. It shows we are all being played by our perceptual orientations, framed as contextual players, immersed into the understanding we follow so diligently. Are we lifers as puppets on a string? Let's put this in perspective. An overview. This world is moved by perceptual collusion, maintained by social media, news, movies, and now AI, all demonstratively language-based. Languages, practiced worldwide and in sync with each other through translation, illustrate an ability to contain humans into a systemic verbalized arrangement. We are also mentored by an overabundance of digital media present in our lives. How much time of your day, or your children's day, is spent watching digital media? Language is not an authentic display of reality. It merely explicates a dimensional exercise to it. Albert Einstein said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them." What he did not say is that you need to be mentally and emotionally equipped to handle the transition. Look, if you are able, you might as well pivot out of your automatic behavioral phase symptomatic of understanding. Most people ride in a general comprehensive state since presence of mind is not required. Hell, watching TV mindlessly is one of its enduring behavioral characteristics. A lot of people are satisfied with the present state of their organized perception, yet contextual overdependence prodded by applied language is a costly perceptual disorder that adversely afflicts equilibrium in many people today. Most people never attain full operational viability within their personage, but don't realize it. Thousands of research papers prove the way humans operate within present parameters. Sack critical vitality, but it will not be read that way. Humans are physically and mentally ill and unbalanced by the confines under which they are forced to accommodate and suffer horribly as a result. But that suffering and its consequences will not be explained in a way to clarify an underlying cause understood by humans in their present troubling predispositions. Humans need freedom outside the boundaries and scope of their present circumstances. Understanding is primarily receptive to causal interpretations and cannot deal with perception that range outside the bounds of coherence. Is this critical question ever asked? Who am I? But if you did ask and mean it, that question is your opportunity to escape out of the mold of who you think you are. Break out of the mold of who you may have been, of who you want to be, out of who others see you as, out of all the labels who have positioned you into a collection of something or someone you're not, or you were or are still, and then ask, who am I? If you answer by calling upon your affiliations your identity is connected to, know then you might be lost. But if you answer that you don't know, or that you are a human being first and above everything else, then you are closer to where you need to be and can move on from there. If we merely interact laterally within a comprehensive state, we lose our impartiality to common objectified terms that soon take over our world. Competitive positions within contextual arrangements gain disciples, forming battle lines clashing with its opposites. Hover above contextual wars, and you'll notice the similarities. Regardless of content, the frame around the periphery is always the same. Language assembles these contextual positions, and humans identify with them. While the names are different, humans respond in the same manner, each time, every time. We call these positions politics, religions, nationalism, ideas, beliefs, and so forth. Captured humans convert conventional reality into contextual positions, maneuvered by language. It's a fundamental shift in which every answer maintains the link to questions, maneuvered into comprehensive maintenance, managing our dependence. It's a strategy that keeps us fenced in. Language serves what we know, pledged to societal participation. By employing language, humans are enlisted into repetitive, associative, and prescriptive versions of reality servicing have, want, need attainable goals. And once participants become overtly dependent on descriptive relevancy, they form alliances with others similarly trained or trapped. Once trapped, humans will gather in large groups. Participation validates the premises and convictions that sanctify members as contextual tenants. Many such tenants cannot think outside of contextual parlance, be it religious, politics, or other. They attempt to master a world by collecting labels that sanction positions of importance or success. These labels provide context to humans that legitimizes endless categories, fomenting this type of reality. Highly subjective, intuitive perception takes a shortcut by no longer objectifying cognitive abilities, since recognition is not in automatic compliance with your inner policies as a seer. Once you transition from a contextual tenant into the assemblages of a developing seer, you regain an equilibrium which fosters autonomy, self-reliance, and critical versatility. You are free to explore worlds that exist outside and or within existential compacts. and you broaden your horizon by effortlessly adapting to what you encounter, without taking on the hubris of that encounter. Freedom is not contextual, nor is it descriptive. Practice your freedom beyond the perceptual allegiances to descriptive stances that push you around. Are you free or are you a robot? Wait, let me answer that. Get it? Come and visit us at teachtolearning.com.